let's take a look at the first question that we have this morning. Explain what is involved in sending a message. Anyone?
Hi, this is Lisa Partain. I'd say there's 3 parts to sending a message: verbal, tonal, and nonverbal.
Okay, thank you. That is a great summary of the contents of a message. Would anyone else care to expand on that?
Hi, well, this is Gina. I'd like to also share that the nonverbal is also the more accurate or telling, I guess, for lack of a better word, part of that triple combo. But all 3 of them, when all 3 of them come together, I'll say harmoniously, that is the holistic message that you want to give to your receiver.
Thank you. Anyone else? What is involved in us as human beings in sending a message?
This is Heather. I would add that what's involved is alignment, and so that alignment between the nonverbal tone and the words drastically changes the message, as opposed to a non-alignment between the nonverbal and the words.
Great points.
I'd love to add one more little bit if I could.
Yes.
It's not in our materials, but when we look at the other part of this cycle, we see decoding. So part of sending the message, and it kind of falls over from building the message, we're actually encoding what it is that we're sending. So we're thinking about when we do send that message along, what's going to land for them, what will make sense, how am I communicating? So it's sort of hidden in all these details is that we're actually encoding it specifically to be able to decode.
Great point. I think if I interpret that, you're speaking to the workbench a little bit as part of one of the icons in that cycle.
Yeah, it starts there, and it definitely flows into, again, how the words you choose, your tone and your nonverbals carry it forward. That encoding goes through both places.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. You guys have a grasp of this. This is great. Let's go on to the second question. And again, this is for anyone to buzz in. What critical concept is first taught when we kind of round that circle at the bottom and the other sends a response? What critical concept is first taught?
This is Lisa Partain. The cycle completes when the other sends back a response that conveys the message was heard and has both facts and feelings. It's a reflective response.
And that completes the cycle. That is the final step. There are multiple steps on that other sends a response. What comes first?
This is Lindsay. The first part, and I'm cheating, I'm looking at the slide. The first part says the other receives our message. And then the decoding that was just mentioned.
Sure. Has a net is involved in there somewhere.
Yes, the net is the icon used for other receives our message.
This is Noelle. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. I would suggest too that and it says on our notes too, the facts and the feelings and the words. I know you asked what comes first. sometimes they could all come together in a big wave when we get back that response.
Mhm. Mhm. It is difficult sometimes to decode if there is emotion in the message. I'll rephrase the question just a little bit. Maybe it's a different question, but what does the net represent?
This is Morgan McKenzie. The net represents when we're receiving a message, we want to catch it, we want to get the whole message, and we want to have very little filters. So we want to have a big net with small holes so we don't lose out on the message.
Sarah, I think I jumped the gun there. I saw some nonverbals in your face there.
Sorry, Lindsay just gets credit for like jumping in for the talk to me round. That's all.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's go on to the next bullet. I think we have one more question here, if I remember right. Explain the concept of the bucket and the bench. That involves both in the sending a message and crafting a message and coming back. Tell me about the bucket and the bench.
This is Stephanie, and the bucket and the bench is, the bucket is basically, in my vernacular, is your toolbox. It's all the skills and thoughts and emotions and ways you have of conveying your message. You're pulling them out of your toolbox, or you're pulling them out of your bucket, and then you put them on the bench. You build and construct what you want to send, and then you send it as best you can, involving all your skills that you've pulled out of your bucket. Sometimes your bucket is insufficient, and sometimes your bucket is too big, and then you have to figure out how you can expand that that bucket in order to better send your message by taking all of those things, building them on the bench, and then sending them. And that goes for the same way when your receiver or listener is trying to catch everything that you're saying in the net, dump it in their bucket, mull it around, build it back on their bench, and then send it back to you.
Wow, thank you. I want to come to your class. I like that. That's great. Sarah, are you ready to put a couple people on the hot seat?
I am. I'm gonna warn the Johns. I'm gonna call on John J and John S to go in a little deeper with these next two questions. We talked about already the fishing net icon for reflective listening, that we've got that like wide hoop for catching all of the message, and little holes because we want to make sure we maintain as much of the message. What are the skills that go in with the fishing net and reflective listening? If John J is ready and able to share. All right, I'm guessing that he's not able to hear me or able to unmute. So would someone else like to help out with answering that question, the skills that go with that fishing net icon?
This is Barbara. I can help.
Thanks, Barbara.
So attentive behaviors, acknowledgements, door openers, silence, and reflectively responding.
All right.
And they all have to be enveloped with empathy. That's it. And I'll talk to you more about that a little later.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yes.
John Jay has said he can hear y'all, but he's on the phone with this call, and apparently we can't hear him. So
yeah. And it's showing me, John, just so you know, that you're self-muted. So that's all I got. So thank you for letting us know that you're here. Oh, looks like you unmuted. All right. Still don't know if we can hear you. All right, we're going to move on to the second question. Thank you, John. I appreciate your efforts. All right, so what is the purpose of engaging participants in a Invite slide? remembering that this is the slide where we talk about really listening as a vital need. And John S., if you're available, can you share with us your thoughts on the vital need slide?
Yes. What I got out of this was that it's we shouldn't take communication for granted, nor, obviously underestimate how important it is, be it good or bad, and the effect it would have on someone. I think we do, have a tendency in just, our day-to-day lives, just flip back an answer just because the word we're providing, technically, I'm using air quotes, as you can all see, provides the answer the person was looking for. But we don't really put thought into it. We don't, I guess, put the emotion, the tonal into it, or the body language that's necessary to maybe give them the answer they're looking for. Sometimes the reassurance they're looking for, things of that nature. Again, I live in a household of 3 daughters, and as I'm frequently told, there are certain things that are important to them. So when I just say, yeah, you look great, and move on, I kind of get to talk to my wife about, there's a better way to say that. Look at them, smile, blah, 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 that good stuff. And that's something that obviously, that's something I'm working on. But anyway, that's kind of what I have on that.
Great. Thank you, John. I like how you incorporated just a very genuine, anecdotal, personal story about how the information on that slide is not only important, but how it's impacting you. And you're realizing how you're starting to apply that information and create that meaning and that significance in your own life with the content.
Thank you.
But anyone else want to add on to their perspective of the vital need slide?
I will. I think it also gives us some validity around why this work is important. So I kind of feel like we all have a default communication mode, and it may be working for us and we have existing relationships, but what the vital need discussion tells us is that we can really amp up our intentionality around our communication and listening, which then allows our relationships to be deeper, to be more connected, and to be to just really enhance those aspects of our life.
Thank you, Gina. Kind of taking it kind of from a conceptual level to a practical level, and then almost like a self-reflection as to how am I going to grow in intentionality with this.
Great. This is a perfect time to move on to the teach back.
Awesome. Thank you for keeping us on time. All right. Larry, you ready to move on to the teach backs?
I am, and thank you, Rachel.